Hi, I'm Gil Troutman with Master Tool Repair. We're going to talk about nail gun maintenance. A lot of times we'll get nail guns in here that look like brand new. And they'll bring them in, they'll say, hey, I used this thing once about 9 months ago, brand new. Did a weekend project, pulled it back out, and all it does is leak air through the trigger or leak air through the cap. And the first thing I'll say is, well, nail guns work best if they're used. It's sort of like a lot of things. If it doesn't get used on a regular basis, they kind of wear out. And what happens is the rubber O-rings start to shrink. Typically, for all nail guns, especially if they're oil nail guns where you have to use oil, you put a couple of drops in the end of the nailer where you hook your hose up, and you put a couple drops around lunchtime if you're using the nail gun all day. That keeps the O-rings nice and lubricated. If you use it and you put it up and you don't use it for several months, get it out of the box or off the shelf and put a couple drops of oil in there and just fire a couple of nails. That keeps the oil lubricating these O-rings and these nailers. If you don't do that, I mean, O-rings, are petroleum based, they're made out of rubber, and after a period of time they just dry out and air is going to blow by them. So you've got to have a brand new nail gun, you used it one time, you put it on the shelf, you took it down a year later, it just leaks air. That means you're going to have to put all brand new O-rings in there. What you should have done is to pull it out, put a couple of drops of air in it, oil in it, and hook your air up, fire a couple of nails, put it back on the shelf. It'll be in good shape. That's the biggest thing we see when people bring nail guns in here who don't use them on a regular basis. They're not in the trades and they're just weekend warriors. The other thing for maintenance on these nailers is primarily the ribbon springs that feed these nails and push them towards that. That typically tends to break. You'll see on a finish nailer, here's a finish nailer. This one has a ribbon spring. You can actually see the ribbon spring here, and that's very easy to replace because you can see where the ribbon spring is. Coil nailers. Coil nailers, they have a lot more moving parts. You load your nails in here. This is a roofing nailer. You close it up, and these feed pawls push the nails. They grab the nail and push it the next one in. These have a lot more moving parts, but they last a long time. On these particular nailers, what goes bad on these is this little spring right here that pushes the pawl down to grab the next nail. I would keep a couple of these on hand at the job site. It's very easy to replace out on the job. You don't have to worry about, taking them to a repair shop. So guys usually buy a number of these to keep these on hand. So for a roofing nailer, that's about the main thing. Of course, keep oil in the nailer and keep it out of the dirt. Okay, with the trim nailer, you don't want to mar up the trim on the house. So typically, you're going to have a nose guard, a protective nose guard. Here's the nose guard, as you can see, and it slides over the top of the foot, so that when you depress this against the piece of trim, it's rubber and it doesn't mar the wood. Keep several of these on hand because your painter is going to hate you if you don't have this on there and you're just making dents all over the wood and he's got to spackle them up before he can prime and paint it. So for a finish nailer, I'd keep plenty of these on hand, maybe a ribbon spring. Because they're visible, they tend to get a little more use. And again, keep these oiled up. Framing nailer. Okay, framing nailer, I would probably, the ribbon spring is not that hard to replace, but you have to know how to do it. But they're pretty heavy duty, so I wouldn't worry about keeping those on hand. The only thing I would do with these is make sure that if this cover, say on this Hitachi style nailer, breaks, you want to keep this exhaust cover. You want to make sure you get another one of these. They don't cost much at all, but if it breaks off, a lot of times people will turn it over and finish hitting the nail into the wood if it doesn't seat, and they'll use this and it cracks off. But when you do that, dirt gets inside of here and it's going to eat all your O-rings up. So I keep an extra exhaust cover on hand. And for this one, that's about it. You can get an extra a spring in here, and that's pretty easy to replace. You simply take off these bolts right here to be able to remove the magazine, and these two right here. All you have to do is slide this off just a wee bit, and it actually comes out this end. It does not come out the back. Do not, on these Hitachi style nailers, pull it out from the back. You're going to end up with the problem getting this all back together. You replace it here. So if you have a couple of Allen wrenches, you can do this, but I wouldn't suggest doing it on the job because it's going to, kind of fall apart, but it's not that hard of a repair. That's about all I would say for the framing nailers, is the exhaust cover and keeping them lubricated. There are a few nailers out there that are oil free. You don't have to put oil in them, but you need to make sure from the manufacturer. I think some of the old pass loads and some of the Senkos were actually oil free. They had a little Teflon ring and a plastic cylinder. But again, when you're talking oil free, yeah, it's low on maintenance, but it tends to wear out faster. There aren't that many of those around. But that's what I would say with nailers. The other thing we see a lot of times is people are putting too much air pressure in the nailer. About 105 is the max air pressure you want in these things. If you put 120, 125 psi, you're really going to damage the bumper and the bottom of these nailers. It's just going to hit that thing so hard. Yeah, it'll drive the nail, but it'll hit it so hard you're going to prematurely wear out the rubber bumper on the bottom, and to get that out is kind of an expensive repair. So run it at about 105 psi unless the manufacturer says different. Keep oil in them on a regular basis, and if you're only going to use it for a weekend job, make sure that you pull them out of the box or pull them off the shelf every couple of months and run a couple of nails through it after you put some oil in the back end, and you'll make sure that this thing will be ready for you the next time you need to use it.